So I'm the last speaker of today, so hopefully everyone can stay awake while I'll talk to you all about sleep. And sleep is something very special. It's very powerful and I'm very passionate about it. And so today I want to talk to you a little bit about what sleep can mean for you and also how sleep changes with age. So first of all, the real question is, what is sleep actually? So if we look at the Oxford Dictionary, this is how sleep is described. A condition of body and mind which typically reoccurs for several hours every night, in which the nervous system is inactive, the eyes closed, the postural muscles relaxed, and consciousness is practically suspended. And you already noticed that I made inactive red, because it's not actually true that the nervous system is inactive. It's a typical misunderstanding. The nervous system is actually quite active while we sleep. And what else do we know about sleep? One thing we know is we can't go without it. And we're not the only living beings that can't go without it. Everyone needs to sleep. Also, all the animals need to sleep. The birds need to sleep. Even fruit flies sleep. But every animal does it in their own way. So for example, the dolphin is quite a spectacular example, I think. Because the dolphin actually can sleep with part of the brain. So half of the brain is asleep, the other half is awake. So as we can see in this figure right here, we can see that the blue side of the dolphin's brain is in deep sleep, and the red side is wide awake. And the dolphin needs to be able to do this because it has to be aware of its surrounding danger, but it also has to be able to breathe and halfly be above the water. So sleep, we can't go without it. But then it must be pretty important. We spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. So we know that, but why then do we sleep? Why is it so important to us? And to the brain is, it's changed. To the brain is particularly important, but it's actually important to every organ in the body. So we live by this 24-hour rhythm, approximately 24 hours, and all our organs are kind of aligned to that. And sleep is a very important regulator in this whole body homeostasis. But for the brain, it's typically important to sleep. So what happens when we're asleep? The brain is actually kind of cleaning itself. It restores its energy and supplies. It also brain processing takes place and memory consolidation. And a lot of neural connections are strengthened, created, or actually loosened as well. So it's a lot of reorganization that takes place while we sleep. And it's actually known from research as well that if you learn a bunch of people a new task, and half of the group gets a good night's sleep and the other half doesn't, we see that the half that actually had a good night's sleep is way better at performing that similar task the next day. So, I think I kind of got you all to understand sleep is important and why we need it, but to make it just a little bit more easy to kind of imagine, I've got an example for you. So, imagine you'd have a kitchen and you are preparing all these different dishes. Desserts, main meals, whatever, salads, anything. And it's going really well, and you're doing that, but you don't clean at all. So you practically don't sleep. You don't clean at all. So the first day you'll be fine. It's great. Second day will be a little bit harder because you don't have your chopping boards left anymore. It's going a bit dirty. You don't have a knife. Third day, it's going to be a mess. And fourth day, it will look like this. So that's kind of what is similar if you do your usual things but you don't sleep. At some point you won't be able to function anymore. And this has major implications also on your health in the long term. We know that people that have poor sleep or sleep insufficient have higher risk of diabetes, higher risk of cardiovascular diseases, higher risk of motor vehicle accidents. They're more dependent on caffeine. So there are all these other health implications. But also very directly, after one night of poor sleep or insufficient sleep, you notice all these things during the day. For example, it's harder to sustain attention. You have a slower response time. You'll have difficulty with your memory, kind of getting what was it again. It's harder when you haven't had a good night of sleep. and you have a decreased performance, you often get kind of mood swings, or you're a little bit emotionally unstable, and sometimes there's a lack of judgment as well. And if you're thinking about like what we've also heard today about dementia, if you look at those specific symptoms, in an elderly person, it could actually easily be mistaken for a sign of dementia. Poor concentration, poor performance, poor memory. So it's always important to have a look at sleep in people that complain of memory loss. All right, so now I actually have a question to you all. Because I mentioned sleep is pretty important, and I'm actually curious to hear how much you sleep during the night, typically. So I just get you to raise your hands. Who of you sleep less than 6 hours? All right. And who of you sleep about 6 to 7 hours each night? Okay, I see a few there. 7 to 8 hours. Yeah, we've got a few people. 8 to 9. Not that many. All right. And more than 9? Oh, there's one person. All right. Very good. So, you know, it's a bit divided in the audience. But what I want to show you is this one. So in this figure, this is from the Sleep Foundation, and it shows us the recommended hours of sleep per night. And as you can see, it changes with age. So we see as a child, we need a lot more hours of sleep. And while we grow older, we need a little bit less. And when you're an adult, we recommend people to have 7 to 9 hours. And when you're 65 plus, here it says about 7 to 8 hours. And we actually don't really think older people need less sleep. It's just harder to get those 9 hours. So going on from that, I'm also curious to hear how many times do you think that you wake up per hour of sleep? So per hour each night, how many times do you think you typically wake up? So I'll get you to raise your hands again. How many people think about 0 to 5 times? Yeah, so that's most of you. 5 to 10 times? Yeah, a few. 10 to 15? Almost no one. Oh yeah, there, just someone. 15 to 20 times? No one really. And more than 20? No. So most of you are in the A-B category. Well, I'm going to surprise you now. Because in this figure, we see how many times we actually wake up during an hour of sleep a night. So in this figure, you can see on the bottom, you see the age. So it goes up from 5 to 60. And on that side, you see the times we wake up per hour of sleep. And an arousal, that's what it is called when you wake up briefly. So an arousal is between 3 seconds to 15 seconds. And as you can see in this figure, it's the thick black line I want you to look at. We see that if you're about 60 years old, on average, coming from these 5 different studies, which are quite big studies, you're about to wake up about 20 times per hour. And you're often not aware of that, but that's the way it is. So don't be too worried when you wake up and you find yourself awakened, because it happens really quite often, but a lot of those arousals, we are not actually aware of it. So, continuing on how sleep changes with age. So, it's important to understand how sleep kind of goes during the night. So it's not as if we fall asleep and stay in the same kind of sleep the whole night. We kind of go through different cycles. So here you see a typical hypnogram of a young adult. And you see we have phases that we are in light sleep, which is stage 1, stage 2, and deep sleep, which is stage 3. And then also we have REM sleep, which is kind of our dream sleep. And we kind of go through those cycles with waking up again, and then deeper sleep, REM sleep, wake up. And we kind of, if you're young, you go through those cycles around 4 to 5 cycles each night. However, when you're older, you tend to wake up a lot more often, and our deep sleep is decreasing. And this is a bit of an exaggeration, this example here, but it is true that there are a lot more arousals, as we just learned as well, that increases with age. but also that those cycles aren't as clear anymore. So what we know from research is that older people may spend the same time, for the time they spend in bed, they sleep less. So their sleep efficiency becomes less with age. Then there's another thing going on, what we can see when people get older. So some people have developed an advanced sleep phase. So as I told you before, we've got this biological clock that also helps us to sleep at the right time. And for most people, that kind of makes them sleepy around 11 o'clock, and then they can sleep for a sustained period until the morning. But we see often in elderly that it becomes a bit earlier. And you might recognize this, that you're sitting at home around 7, 8 p.m., you've had your dinner, and you fall asleep on the chair. And you might have a little bit of a sleep and then go to bed, and then it's maybe quite hard to fall asleep at that point. Or you fall asleep quite well, but then you wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning and you feel wide awake. So this is something that can occur. Then there are all these different other factors that can contribute to sleep problems when we grow older. So for example, sleep disorders, primary sleep disorders are more common, like for example sleep apnea, but also other medical illnesses become more common while we grow older. People more often use medication that can influence sleep. Sometimes we see people find it harder to get out, so they do less exercise, which might give them difficulty sleeping at night, but also poor sleep habits. For example, having your iPhone or your tablet right in front of your face up until the moment that you actually want to go to sleep. And that's not going to help you sleep. But the main thing that I want to make clear, it is not normal to fall asleep during the day or have persistent trouble falling asleep at night just because you're older. There is something else to it. It's not just because you're older, you're going to have bad sleep. There are things that you can do about it. So, now I want to go over to the sleep strategies. So what can you do to kind of take control of your sleep? So we'll start with the do's. It's very important to have a regular rhythm. So go to bed at about the same time and get up around the same time each day. Try to have a regular rhythm. Make sure that you have a good environment that you sleep in. Make sure that you have a good bed, it's comfortable, it's dark in your room, and also that it's quiet, especially because you don't sleep that deep anymore, so you're more easily woken up. It's important that the environment is kind of like a perfect surrounding. It's not too warm, not too cold, so make sure you get that right. And then it's also very important, not just for your sleep, but also for sleep, to have daytime exercise. Make sure that your body is actually a bit tired when you're going to bed. And then there are also a few don'ts. So what you shouldn't do is take long naps during the day. It's fine to take a nap. It's sometimes actually very necessary to take a nap. But try to do it not too long, not for several hours, because that might interfere with your sleep during the night. And don't do it too late in the day. So if you're going to sleep in the evening, it's going to get you in trouble during the night. Also, as I just said, don't bring your tablet into your bed, or don't watch the television just right up until you go to bed. So make sure you kind of stop with looking at all those screens about an hour before, or at least, about an hour before you go to bed. Dim the lights, do some other relaxing thing that might help you to go to sleep. And then obviously try to avoid coffee in the evening. And also alcohol, you might think it helps you to fall asleep, and it may do that, but it will actually disrupt your sleep throughout the night. So these are some strategies that you can put in place to improve your sleep if you have trouble sleeping. However, this is not always enough. So there are other things that can keep you awake, and you can't just fix with these strategies. And those things are, for example, primary sleep disorders, insomnia, sleep apnea, which is very common, especially when we grow older. So this is a breathing disorder during sleep which can wake you up. Restless leg syndrome. This is something that you feel very uncomfortable feelings in the legs, especially in the evening. REM sleep behavior disorder is also something we typically see in elder men, where people act out their dreams. and as I mentioned before, the advanced sleep phase disorder. So these are all things that you can get treatment for, and you will need help for it. You can't fix it with those sleep strategies I just said. And also other health problems. So if you have pain during the night, or you just constantly have to get up to go to the bathroom, those are things you need to talk to your GP or to your doctor about, because you can improve those things, and those things in that way can also improve your sleep. So if you do feel there's more than just the typical things that I listed before, you've tried those but it's not working, you're not getting your good sleep, just talk to your GP about it and see if there's anything in place that you can improve. And that's kind of my message. So I want you to take control. So you've heard other things today as well, and these are really the 3 pillars that you want to work on and that you actually can take control of. Your diet is something that you can influence yourself. Your exercise, you can do something about that. And also sleep. So it's important, and you can get on top of it. And as you can see, you'll be very happy if you do. So it isn't always easy growing older, but I really like this quote: aging seems to be the only available way to live a long life. Thank you, everyone, and sleep well tonight.